3 months back, I witnessed my parents swinging a baseball bat inside an unfamiliar person's living room, under the impression that they were ruining my life. In reality, they were granting me an invaluable gift I never realized I required: liberation from those who were supposed to care for me the most. I'm Helena, and I want to recount the day I understood that some of the most harmful individuals in your life can be related to you by blood. It all began with $120,000 and a family dinner that would alter everything indefinitely. However, to grasp why that sum nearly shattered my existence, I must take you back 5 years to a period when I still held the belief that familial ties guaranteed loyalty and that love was inherently unconditional. I was 28 at the time, residing in a studio apartment that was little more than a glorified closet. Each day for 4 years, I would awaken in that confined space and remind myself of the reasons behind my sacrifices: why I was living on canned beans for dinner, why I chose the bus instead of owning a car, and why I bought clothes from thrift shops while celebrating birthdays with desserts from gas stations. To me, $120,000 represented freedom. It was enough to secure a house and finally claim a space that was genuinely mine. Each dollar symbolized a choice, a sacrifice, a dream set aside but not forsaken. Countless late nights spent debugging code until my eyes ached. Freelance work on weekends while my friends were out enjoying life. All of it felt worthwhile because I had found her, the ideal 3-bedroom craftsman home with hardwood floors and a kitchen that bathed in morning light like molten gold. Every Saturday, I would drive to my parents' house for our usual family gathering. My mom would prepare her famous meatloaf, while my dad would complain about his back, secretly relishing the presence of both his daughters at the table. My older sister Alyssa, 3 years my senior, brought along her husband Andrew, who perpetually seemed in pursuit of the next get-rich-quick scheme that promised wealth without effort. That specific Saturday in October felt uniquely charged from the moment I entered. There was an electric atmosphere, a sense that something significant was imminent. Alyssa and Andrew were whispering conspiratorially in one corner, while my mom threw me odd glances filled with a blend of excitement and calculation. Dad was unable to meet my gaze during his customary grievances about the neighbor's dog. I was too enveloped in my own excitement to heed the warning signs. I had pictures of the house on my phone, eager to share my happiness with those who were meant to celebrate my achievements. "Alyssa has fantastic news," Mom proclaimed as we gathered around the dinner table, her voice carrying that specific tone she adopted right before requesting a favor. What unfolded next still causes a knot in my stomach when I reminisce about it. Alyssa didn't merely share a snippet about her new business, she presented us with a full-fledged pitch, complete with printed charts, graphs, projected revenues, and market assessments. This was her third attempt at starting a business, and it appeared she hadn't gleaned much from her previous 2 dismal failures that had prompted my parents to refinance their home to settle her debts. "I've learned from my past errors," she said, her eyes gleaming with that perilous blend of desperation and delusion I had witnessed all too often before. "This time, I've got everything sorted. I just need funding for initial development and marketing efforts." Andrew nodded supportively beside her, playing his part with gusto. The forecasts indicated we could double our investment in 2 years. That's when they all turned to stare at me, not casual looks, but intentional, expectant gazes that instilled a chilling sensation in my chest. "Why are you all looking at me like this?" I inquired, although a part of me already sensed the response. Alyssa's voice adopted the sweet, manipulative melody she had perfected since our childhood. "Well, I recognize you're saving for a house, and Mom mentioned you have approximately $120,000 saved up." The room fell silent, with only the sound of my heart racing in my ears. They'd discussed my finances and calculated exactly how much I was worth to them. I wasn't their daughter, their sister. I was simply a mobile ATM with a convenient family tie. "I won't be investing my house fund into your venture, Alyssa." The words slipped out sharper than intended, but honestly, I was taken aback by their nerve. This was no minor favor between siblings, it was my entire future at stake. They wanted me to risk everything based on Alyssa's history of striking failures in business. Alyssa's expression crumpled as if I had physically hit her. But if you assist me now, in 2 years, I'll return $240,000 to you. You could afford an even better home then. I couldn't help but laugh at the ridiculousness of it all. Here was a woman who had faltered in business twice, asking me to entrust her with my life savings based on nothing more than enthusiasm and unrealistic projections. Alyssa, you've encountered failure in business twice already. Perhaps it's best to abandon these schemes and pursue a standard job like the rest of us. That's when everything escalated. Alyssa broke down in tears and fled the room as if we were still teens embroiled in a dramatic argument. Andrew labeled me heartless and followed her. My parents, who had raised me and supposedly loved me unconditionally for 28 years, instantly turned against me as if I were the antagonist in this narrative. How could you be so harsh to your sister? Mom's tone was frigid, slicing through me like a knife. Alyssa is far more talented than you will ever be. You're merely envious of her achievements. Achievements? I wanted to shout. What achievements? The 2 bankruptcies? The relentless calls from creditors at all hours? The strain that led Dad to experience panic attacks and required emergency room visits? But Dad dealt the final blow. You either give Alyssa that money, or you'll be excluded from this family. I stared at these people, these strangers who bore my parents' faces, and realized that to them, I had never been their daughter. I was simply a bank account with a pulse, a resource to be exploited when convenient. I will not give her my money, I replied softly. Then leave our house and don't return. So I did. I exited that house, drove back to my cramped apartment, and changed my phone number the following day. If they wanted to sever ties over money, I would make it official. A year later, I purchased that house. The same stunning craftsman with hardwood floors and sunlight flooding the kitchen in the morning. I established my home office in the spare room and experienced true peace. No more Saturday dinners fraught with tension. No more enduring Alyssa's latest unrealistic business ideas. No more being treated like a human ATM by those who were meant to love me. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that Alyssa's business had finally turned successful. She bought a large home, was frequently traveling with Andrew, and shared glimpses of their extravagant lifestyle on social media. While I was genuinely thrilled for her, I felt absolutely no remorse about safeguarding my financial future. For 5 years, I enjoyed my life without them. 5 serene, drama-free years where I progressed in my career, learned to relish my own company, and gradually constructed a life that felt truly mine. I even met someone named Sebastian, a remarkable man I connected with through a professional networking group. Though based in another state, we made our long-distance relationship work because he was everything my family had lacked: kind, stable, supportive, and someone who valued me for who I was rather than what I could offer. Sebastian would visit me, and I would visit him, and we began to seriously discuss a future together. I was genuinely considering selling my house to relocate to his state and start afresh with someone who truly cared about my happiness. Then one Tuesday morning, like any other, I received an email that altered everything. It arrived at my old email address, one I seldom checked anymore. The sender's name sent chills through me. Mom, Helena, we urgently need to see you. This is a matter of life and death. Please come home. Despite everything that had transpired, these people had raised me. If someone was dying, if Dad was experiencing a heart attack or Mom had cancer, I had to know. I responded succinctly, I'll come by this Saturday. On Saturday morning, I spent 10 minutes sitting in my car outside their house, mustering courage. The neighborhood appeared smaller than I remembered, somehow worn. But what truly grabbed my attention was the driveway with 2 cars. Alyssa's brand new Porsche and Andrew's immaculate Mercedes, both extremely expensive. So, this gathering was not solely about my parents. It was a family intervention. Mom opened the door, looking older, wearier, with new lines around her eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. Vivian, she greeted, her voice quivering with emotion. Thank you for coming. The entire family was gathered in the living room, like some distorted reunion. Dad sat in his usual chair, looking somber, while Alyssa sat on the couch next to Andrew, her eyes red from crying. They all seemed genuinely pleased to see me, yet terrified. "What's happening?" I asked, remaining standing to avoid becoming too comfortable. "Your email stated it was life and death." Mom immediately began to tear up. "It's about Alyssa. She's in grave trouble." I glanced at my sister, unable to even meet my gaze. Andrew held her hand tightly, as if she might float away without it. "What kind of trouble?" Dad cleared his throat. "Her business collapsed 3 months ago. The bank took her house. She is indebted to some very dangerous individuals." I felt that familiar blend of vindication and genuine sorrow. Vindication because I had been correct about her business prospects all along. Experiencing the loss of your home is genuinely painful, even if it stems from your own poor choices. I expressed my condolences, albeit cautiously, then asked, "What does this have to do with me?" Alyssa finally interjected, her voice barely audible. $150,000. "Who do you owe that amount to?" I inquired. Andrew replied, "Private investors. They don't take 'I'll pay you later' for an answer." This set Alyssa off into tears once more. "They've been calling and threatening us. They know where we're staying and our daily patterns. We're scared. Helena, really scared." I felt genuine sympathy for them, however, I still didn't grasp why I was there. "This is awful, but I still don't see what you expect from me." That's when Mom made a stunning statement. "We know you purchased a house. A nice one. We think you should sell it to help Alyssa clear her debts." I looked at her as if she had sprouted another head. "Have you lost your mind?" "You're young," Mom continued as if my shock hadn't registered. "You can acquire another home. If Alyssa and Andrew don't settle this debt, they could be severely injured." I glanced around at them, these people who had pushed me away for 5 years, who declared I was no longer family, and who never inquired about my well-being. "Let me clarify," I said slowly, my tone growing colder with every word. 5 years ago, you kicked me out because I wouldn't fund Alyssa's business. Now that it has failed dramatically, she owes money to dangerous lenders, and you want me to sell my house to rescue her? "Family aids family," Dad declared earnestly. "Family?" I scoffed, devoid of humor. "You said I wasn't family anymore. Remember?" You completely cut me off. At this point, Alyssa was crying more intensely. "We know we made mistakes before, but this is different. These people won't just take us to court, they will harm us. Perhaps you should have thought of that before you borrowed from loan sharks." Andrew, frustrated, said, "You don't understand the kind of pressure we're under." True, I don't. But I noticed 2 very expensive cars parked outside. Maybe consider selling them to pay off some of your debt. "We need those cars for work," Alyssa snapped back. "You need them more than you need to protect yourselves from menacing creditors." The circular reasoning was overwhelming. They were requesting I sacrifice my financial stability to counteract issues they had caused, while they refused to make any concessions themselves. Mom stepped closer to me. "If you sold your house, you could settle Alyssa's debts and still have funds left for a decent apartment." A decent apartment? Anger flared within me. "Mom, I worked incredibly hard for that house. I saved every single penny over years. I lived frugally to afford it. I'm not going to sell it to resolve Alyssa's issues." "She's your sister," Dad said. "She's also an adult who made her own poor choices," I retorted. "Bad decisions, obviously." Alyssa leaped up from the couch. "You're supposed to support me. You're supposed to care about my situation. Where was this family allegiance 5 years ago when you all told me to leave?" I questioned. "That was different," Mom replied. "How was it different?" "You didn't want to help me maintain my money then, just as I don't wish to assist you with your financial troubles now. A heavy silence fell in the room. They all looked at me as though I was the unreasonable one, as if I were the villain in this warped family narrative. I'm not engaging in this, I finally stated. Alyssa got herself into this predicament. She can find her own way out. If you care about her so much, sell your house and help her out. Mom gasped as though I had struck her. This is the only house we have. We're old, Helena. We can't just restart like you can. Then you truly comprehend my feelings about my house. I turned to walk toward the door. Alyssa called after me, "You're making a colossal mistake. These people are serious." I glanced back at her. So am I. I left them there, driving home with a sense of relief I hadn't felt in years. Upon arriving at my house, I blocked Mom's email address. I was finished with their drama for good. For a week, tranquility reigned. Sebastian called each day, offering support and understanding. "You did the right thing," he reassured me, stating they couldn't just reappear after 5 years and demand I resolve their issues. I genuinely felt good about my choice. Of course, I felt remorse for Alyssa's troubles, but those weren't my burdens to bear. My life needed my attention. Then came Tuesday morning, which altered everything in unforeseen ways. As I brewed coffee in my kitchen, anticipating a productive workday, I heard a car door slam outside. I peeked out the window and nearly dropped my mug. Mom and Dad were strolling up my driveway as if they owned the place. "What are you doing here?" I demanded when I opened the door. "How did you manage to find my address?" Mom appeared quite pleased with herself. "Alyssa employed a private investigator." "A private investigator? Are you joking?" Dad scrutinized my house with a calculating gaze, and I could almost visualize the dollar signs swirling in his thoughts. "This is a nice place," he remarked. "Please leave my property." However, Mom shoved past me and entered my home as if she owned it, followed by Dad. I stood momentarily stunned by their boldness. "Don't get comfortable. You're not staying here," I warned. Mom wandered around my living room, touching everything and assessing like she was evaluating a property. "If you sold this house, you could easily settle Alyssa's debts and still have a good amount left for a smaller residence, perhaps a nice apartment." "I've already told you that I'm not selling my house." "But look at all this space," Dad protested, spreading his arms. "It's just you here. You don't need all this room. What I require is none of your concern." Mom turned to me, her eyes glistening with tears once more. "Alyssa is truly frightened. Helena. Those men contacted her yesterday. They know where she and Andrew are currently staying. They warned that if they don't receive their money by the end of the month, something terrible will happen. Then maybe Alyssa should reach out to the police." "The police won't be able to assist in this matter." Dad interjected, "These aren't the kind of individuals who heed restraining orders." I was becoming increasingly exasperated. "That's still not my issue. You both need to leave right now. We're not going anywhere until you agree to assist your sister," Mom insisted, crossing her arms defiantly. "Then I'll call the police," I declared, pulling out my phone to dial. Dad seized my arm. "Don't be absurd. Let go of me." I shook him off. "I'm calling them right now if you don't vacate my house." They could sense my seriousness. Mom's sobs intensified. "Fine, but this isn't over, Helena. If anything happens to Alyssa, it'll be on your conscience. And if my financial well-being is affected because I cover her mistakes, that weight will be on mine as well. At least this way, only the individual who created the problem faces the repercussions." Dad pointed at me. "You'll regret this. Family is meant to support one another. You didn't believe that 5 years ago." After they finally departed, I contacted the realtor I had spoken with about potentially selling my house to move in with Sebastian. "Hi, it's Helena. Remember our discussion about listing my house? I need to sell it as quickly as possible. I'm open to a 5% discount if it aids the process. That's quite opportune. I happen to have a buyer who has been searching in your neighborhood. With that discount, I believe he would be very interested. 3 days later, he contacted me with an offer. Although it was less than I had anticipated, it was reasonable given the urgency of the sale. I accepted it without hesitation. Sebastian was perplexed when I broke the news. Why the hurry? I recounted my parents' unexpected visit, their threats, and their unwillingness to leave. I don't trust them, Sebastian. I have a feeling they will keep pestering me or perhaps even do something drastic. I prefer to sell the house and secure the funds where they can't access or use it against me. That seems wise. And hey, this means you can come to stay with me sooner than we planned. That brought a genuine smile to my face for the first time in days. Are you okay with me crashing at your place while I search for a new house nearby? Are you kidding? I've been hoping you'd relocate here. This just accelerates our timeline. The closing went quickly. Within a week, all the necessary paperwork was finalized, and the house was sold. Sebastian came over to help me pack and move everything to his home. It felt reassuring to have him there, easing the burden of stress. As we loaded the final boxes into the moving truck, I took one last look at the house. I had genuinely enjoyed living there. I had worked hard to afford it, but I felt confident about my choice to sell. I was embarking on a new chapter with Sebastian, and my family could no longer use my house as a means of emotional manipulation. Are you okay? Sebastian asked, wrapping his arm around me. Yeah, I'm fine. Let's leave this place. Together we drove away, and I felt an immense weight lift off my shoulders. Whatever unfolded with Alyssa and her debt, it would not implicate me or my finances. I had finally liberated myself from their drama permanently. Living with Sebastian turned out to be wonderful. His home was warm and inviting, and working remotely meant I could quickly establish a routine. We spent our evenings browsing houses online, envisioning our future together. For the first time in months, I felt truly happy and completely free of stress. About a month into living with Sebastian, my phone rang one Tuesday morning. The caller ID displayed a number I didn't recognize, yet it bore the area code of my hometown. Is this Helena Smith? Yes, who is this? This is Officer Hughes from the Lincoln Police Department. I'm reaching out regarding an incident involving your parents, Wade and Susan Smith. I felt a chill run down my spine. What kind of incident? They were arrested last night for breaking and entering, as well as destruction of property. The homeowner intends to file charges. I was utterly baffled. Breaking and entering where? They broke into an address associated with your former residence. Is 847 Maple Street a house you previously owned? I sold that house a month ago. What were my parents doing there? That's what we seek to understand. They caused considerable damage inside the home, ruining furniture, shattering windows, and spray painting obscenities on the walls. The new owner returned to find them in his living room, smashing his coffee table with a baseball bat. I collapsed onto Sebastian's couch, my legs giving out beneath me. Are you serious? Absolutely serious. The estimated damage is around $40,000. Your parents claimed they thought it was still your house and that you had wronged them in some way. They said they intended to get back at you for abandoning your family. I shared everything with Officer Hughes about Alyssa's debts, their unexpected visits to my house, and the entire 5-year family saga that led us here. He listened intently and took detailed notes. So, they had no clue you'd sold the house? Clearly not. They likely intended to vandalize my property out of revenge for not supporting Alyssa financially. Instead, they vandalized someone else's home. That's exactly how it appears. The issue is that they caused damage to an innocent party's property rather than yours. After I ended the call, I informed Sebastian of the situation. He was just as astonished as I was. That's outrageous, Helena. They could have been shot. What if the homeowner had been armed and believed they were dangerous intruders? I hadn't even considered that. My parents could have lost their lives over this ridiculous vendetta and pathetic quest for revenge. In the following weeks, I received continued updates from the police and mutual acquaintances back home regarding my parents' case. The legal process was proceeding, and the severity of their situation was becoming evident. Mom and Dad were facing serious criminal charges, but their attorney negotiated a plea deal. They admitted guilt to avoid jail time, but they were required to pay full restitution to the homeowner they terrorized. $40,000 for the property damage, along with legal fees and court expenses. The total came to nearly $60,000. A few weeks later, my friend Catherine called me with the whole story. Helena, your parents had to sell their house. They couldn't find any other way to afford the restitution. The irony was staggering. They sold the only asset they claimed to have, the one they said they were too old to replace. And here's the twist, Catherine continued. After settling all they owed to the court and the homeowner, they handed over the remaining funds to Alyssa to settle her debt issues. In the end, they did exactly what they demanded I do, but with their own property instead of mine. That's not even the best part, Catherine said. As for Alyssa's debt troubles, it turns out they weren't as perilous as she portrayed. The supposed dangerous individuals were merely a legitimate investment firm threatening to sue her. No broken bones, no mysterious accidents, just standard legal proceedings. So Alyssa had fabricated a story of physical danger. She had influenced everyone, including our parents, into believing her life was at risk when, in reality, she was just facing a run-of-the-mill lawsuit. Where are Mom and Dad staying now? I inquired. They're renting a small apartment with Alyssa and Andrew. All four of them are squeezed into a two-bedroom place. From what I'm hearing, it's not going well. There's a lot of arguing and tension. A few months went by, and I learned through friends that my family was trying to reach out to me via mutual contacts. They wanted to apologize, explain themselves, and somehow mend our relationship. Every time I was approached about it, I refused. Catherine called me once more to discuss it. Your mom asked me to convey her apologies. She said they've recognized they dealt with everything incorrectly and made serious errors. It's too late for apologies. I replied that they spent 5 years showing no regard for whether I lived or died. Then they insisted I financially ruin myself for Alyssa's mistakes. Ultimately, they committed real crimes because I refused to fulfill their demands. I'm done. But their family, Helena, Catherine protested. No, they're not. Family doesn't ignore you for 5 years and then show up asking for money. Family doesn't hire private investigators to follow you. Family doesn't break into houses with baseball bats when they don't get their way. Sebastian had been hearing my side of the conversation. After I ended the call, he grasped my hand gently. Are you okay? He asked. I'm actually perfect, I replied, and indeed I was. We had located a house that we both adored and were getting ready to make an offer. My work life was thriving, and I'd received a notable promotion. Most importantly, I was finally free from their persistent drama. He flashed that smile at me, the one that always made my heart flutter. Regarding the house, I had an idea about extending our offer beyond just the property itself. Suddenly, he knelt in his living room and revealed a ring box that left me breathless. Helena, will you marry me? We can purchase that house together and begin the real life we've envisioned. Tears of joy, something I hadn't felt in ages, started to fall. Yes. Absolutely, yes. We got engaged that day and submitted our offer that weekend. To our delight, it was promptly accepted, and we were planning our wedding for the following year in the garden of our new home. Sometimes, I reflect on my family and question whether I made the right decision to completely distance myself from them. These moments of uncertainty usually last only around 30 seconds, and I quickly recall how serene my life has been without their manipulative and emotionally abusive behaviors. Alyssa has created her own issues through a series of poor business choices and an inability to learn from her errors. My parents opted to enable her self-destructive patterns instead of allowing her to confront the natural consequences of her actions. Instead of managing their own problems like adults, they chose to harass and threaten me. When I refused to be manipulated, they resorted to criminal behavior. I opted to construct a life with someone who loves and supports me unconditionally. I made the choice to safeguard my financial stability and mental well-being. I surrounded myself with individuals who don't try to manipulate me or see me as a mere source of funds. I believe I made far better choices. Sebastian and I are deeply engaged in planning our wedding, discussing the possibility of having children in the future, and dreaming about the garden we hope to cultivate next spring. My career is flourishing in ways I could have never imagined, and I wake up each day genuinely happy and at peace, truly content with the life I've created. None of this would have been feasible had I allowed my family to pull me back into their chaos or sacrificed my future for their dysfunction. Therefore, I have no regrets about cutting them off, not even for a second. Sometimes, those who are expected to love you unconditionally are the very ones who impose the most unrealistic conditions on that love. Walking away from toxic family members can often be the most compassionate act you can do for yourself and your future. The toughest boundaries we establish are frequently the ones that ultimately liberate us. And I've learned that freedom is worth every sacrifice needed to attain it. Thank you for listening. If you appreciated this story, please share it with others who may need to hear it. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about prioritizing yourself when no one else will. Sometimes, the family you choose can be far better than the one you are born into. Have a buyer who has been searching in your neighborhood. With that discount, I believe he would be very interested. 3 days later, he contacted me with an offer. Although it was less than I had anticipated, it was reasonable given the urgency of the sale. I accepted it without hesitation. Sebastian was perplexed when I broke the news. Why the hurry? I recounted my parents' unexpected visit, their threats, and their unwillingness to leave. I don't trust them, Sebastian. I have a feeling they will keep pestering me or perhaps even do something drastic. I prefer to sell the house and secure the funds where they can't access or use it against me. That seems wise. And hey, this means you can come to stay with me sooner than we planned. That brought a genuine smile to my face for the first time in days. Are you okay with me crashing at your place while I search for a new house nearby? Are you kidding? I've been hoping you'd relocate here. This just accelerates our timeline. The closing went quickly. Within a week, all the necessary paperwork was finalized, and the house was sold. Sebastian came over to help me pack and move everything to his home. It felt reassuring to have him there, easing the burden of stress. As we loaded the final boxes into the moving truck, I took one last look at the house. I had genuinely enjoyed living there. I had worked hard to afford it, but I felt confident about my choice to sell. I was embarking on a new chapter with Sebastian, and my family could no longer use my house as a means of emotional manipulation. Are you okay? Sebastian asked, wrapping his arm around me. Yeah, I'm fine. Let's leave this place. Together we drove away, and I felt an immense weight lift off my shoulders. Whatever unfolded with Alyssa and her debt, it would not implicate me or my finances. I had finally liberated myself from their drama permanently. Living with Sebastian turned out to be wonderful. His home was warm and inviting, and working remotely meant I could quickly establish a routine. We spent our evenings browsing houses online, envisioning our future together. For the first time in months, I felt truly happy and completely free of stress. About a month into living with Sebastian, my phone rang one Tuesday morning. The caller ID displayed a number I didn't recognize, yet it bore the area code of my hometown. Is this Helena Smith? Yes, who is this? This is Officer Hughes from the Lincoln Police Department. I'm reaching out regarding an incident involving your parents, Wade and Susan Smith. I felt a chill run down my spine. What kind of incident? They were arrested last night for breaking and entering, as well as destruction of property. The homeowner intends to file charges. I was utterly baffled. Breaking and entering where? They broke into an address associated with your former residence. Is 847 Maple Street a house you previously owned? I sold that house a month ago. What were my parents doing there? That's what we seek to understand. They caused considerable damage inside the home, ruining furniture, shattering windows, and spray painting obscenities on the walls. The new owner returned to find them in his living room, smashing his coffee table with a baseball bat. I collapsed onto Sebastian's couch, my legs giving out beneath me. Are you serious? Absolutely serious. The estimated damage is around $40,000. Your parents claimed they thought it was still your house and that you had wronged them in some way. They said they intended to get back at you for abandoning your family. I shared everything with Officer Hughes about Alyssa's debts, their unexpected visits to my house, and the entire 5-year family saga that led us here. He listened intently and took detailed notes. So, they had no clue you'd sold the house? Clearly not. They likely intended to vandalize my property out of revenge for not supporting Alyssa financially. Instead, they vandalized someone else's home. That's exactly how it appears. The issue is that they caused damage to an innocent party's property rather than yours. After I ended the call, I informed Sebastian of the situation. He was just as astonished as I was. That's outrageous, Helena. They could have been shot. What if the homeowner had been armed and believed they were dangerous intruders? I hadn't even considered that. My parents could have lost their lives over this ridiculous vendetta and pathetic quest for revenge. In the following weeks, I received continued updates from the police and mutual acquaintances back home regarding my parents' case. The legal process was proceeding, and the severity of their situation